Thanks, President. Delegates, we have always been the party of the environment, and we talk a lot at this conference about equity and fairness, and we talk about fairness between rich and poor. This chapter is about the fairness between present and future, and we're the party to be able to deliver that. I acknowledge those activists who've made sure that branches around the country have been talking about this issue again and again, and thank that Green Army for being here now as well. But if you go through the major environmental decisions that have been made in Australia, all of them belong to Labor. The Great Barrier Reef would have been drilled were it not for Gough Whitlam. It was the Hawke and Keating governments that made sure we protected the Franklin, the Daintree, Kakadu. It was the Rudd and Gillard governments that protected Ningaloo, the Murray-Darling Basin, and our oceans. The two largest conservation decisions that have ever been made on the planet were made by Labor governments. The largest conservation decision in history was made by Bob Hawke with Michel Rocard when Antarctica was protected. And the second largest conservation decision in history was when the Gillard government protected our oceans. Since that time, whether it's been Tony Abbott, Malcolm Turnbull, Scott Morrison or Peter Dutton all along, the approach has been, well, somewhat different. The marine parks were cut in half. That in itself is the largest reduction of area under conservation from any government in the history of the planet. Think of all the different environmental atrocities around the world. No one has ever removed as much area from conservation as what this government did in the oceans. When it comes to World Heritage, their way of dealing with the Great Barrier Reef is to give $500 million to a small private foundation, effectively outsourcing the public service to their corporate mates. When it comes to our cultural heritage sites, they decided to look at the Sydney Opera House and describe it from the Prime Minister himself as, quote unquote, Australia's biggest billboard. When it came to land clearing in Queensland, including in the Great Barrier Reef marine catchment, they decided to not even assess the damage time and time again. And only in the last week, we discovered that 200 endangered birds have been exported with the full approval of this government to a zoo that doesn't exist. So against all that, we need to make clear where this chapter is headed and what Labor will do, the next Labor government, in protecting the environment. Of course, all of this, everything we do in the environment in Australia is underpinned by our approach to climate change. And Mark Butler, since we were in government, has led us on the climate change debate the whole way through, and it will see us once again going from being a nation where emissions were dropping to a nation where they're increasing, and Mark Butler's policies will be what get us back to a nation that is getting its emissions down again as the environment and the planet so desperately needs. But we also have in this chapter the policies that we're taking to the election short of what was announced today. We have in front of us, and what we take to the next election, that Labor will restore and save the marine parks in full. In full. We'll build on the fact that we stopped the super trawler when we were last in government by making sure we ban all super trawlers in that fishery. But I think most importantly, of all the different environment policies that we have, this will be the one that changes our continent the most. The first election commitment that Bill Shorten made this term was in his budget reply. And in his budget reply, he committed Labor that the next Labor government will double the number of Indigenous rangers. First Nation rangers working on country, caring for country, using traditional knowledge combined with the best environmental science. I'm also going to say a little bit about environmental laws, but it's in an amendment, so I'm not allowed to say it yet.